conduct the competition, and we look forward to seeing how everything goes. So please join me in welcoming Meg.
I wanted to say thank you to the SECON team for organizing this amazing pitch competition, and thank you to all of you for coming along to what, I'm biased when I say this, but the best event of SECON. Wanted to introduce our amazing judges that we have here who have come to join us and share their expertise and skills. We've got Scott Bailey, who is from Mass Challenge here in Boston, Ricardo Garcia, who's from the Rishi Childhood Cancer Foundation, Valerie Mosley, who's from Valmo Ventures, and Nita Prasad from Draper Richard Kaplan Foundation. So if we could put our hands together for the awesome judges. And I know we've come here to hear from some amazing entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs who are solving some really important social and economic problems in our community. And without them, this pitch competition wouldn't be possible. We had over 30 applications for this competition, and we've selected finalists, four teams, and there'll be multiple entrepreneurs here pitching and presenting on behalf of the companies. So in alphabetical order, we have Alex. We have two people presenting on behalf of Alex today, Sergio Marrero and Alana Matos. From Dare to Innovate, we have Emma Shayberg O'Brien and Megan McCormick. Green Soul, we have Shreyans Bandari, and from Group, we have Shrenik Jain and Ravi Shah. So hands together for our entrepreneurs. I know different pitch competitions have different structures, so I thought it'd be useful to just run through how the process for today will actually work. Each of the teams will have 5 minutes to present their idea to you and to convince you why you should be investing in their company today. What we'll have immediately after that is 2 questions from our distinguished judges. The entrepreneurs will have an opportunity to answer those questions on the spot, here on the stage. And while those questions are being asked, we want active audience participation. So what that means for you is if everyone can open up their SECON app, and I hope that everyone's downloaded it. If not, you can get it at the App Store. It's SECON2016. If you open up the app, you'll see that there's a pen icon here at the bottom. If you press the pen icon, it will take you to a message screen, which looks very similar to Twitter. And what we want you to do there is to tweet at me, so May Somali, it's also written on these whiteboards here, with your question and hashtag the company name. Now, if you don't have time to hashtag the company name, that's also fine. We'll probably work it out based on when you're tweeting. But what will happen while the judges are asking the questions is we'll be collating all the audience questions, and we'll have time for 2 questions from the audience today. So I will read out the 2 questions we've selected from the audience. So if you're shy, this is an opportunity to ask a question anyway and to make sure it gets put forward. Once our entrepreneurs have answered the 2 questions from the judges and the 2 questions from the audience, we'll move on to the next company. Now, at the end of the 4 company presentations, what we will have is voting, and the voting process will explain a bit more in detail, but what we want you to think about while you're listening to these conversations and pitches is these 4 criteria, namely the business model, product market fit, impact, namely social impact, and engagement with the audience. The voting structure will work via the app as well, with a link that you'll see in the pitch competition, and we will show you that before you commence voting. So this is an opportunity to download the app if you haven't. For those of you who might not be able to do that, we also have the Qualtrics link here. So that link will lead to the same screen that you see on this right-hand side. You'll have $1,000 to invest, and this is up to you as an investor to decide how you want to distribute this money. You can put it all in one company, you can divide it equally. That's probably sitting on the fence. I'd encourage you to maybe go for 1 or 2 companies, but really at the end of the day, it's up to you. And as you can imagine, the company that wins the People's Choice Award is the one that has the most money invested, and the judges will also be choosing the company of their choice. In terms of the prizes that we're working towards today, we have 2 different categories. So the Judge's Choice Award is 2 hours of mentoring with Tammy Kesselman, who's an entrepreneur, strategic advisor, has worked at Soul for Good, and is willing and very excited to help the companies with whatever questions that they have at whatever stage they're at. And then in terms of the second prize for the People's Choice Award, we have the Mass Challenge fee waived, thanks to Scott and his team who have agreed to do that for us today. The Judge's Choice Award, the winner will get lunch with Jean Hammond. Jean is an entrepreneur, an angel investor, a real leader in this space, and she's kindly offered to take the team out to lunch, but also to help them with ways to grow their social venture and look at ways to fundraise as well. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our first team up on stage, Alex, and I'll hand it over if we could give them a warm welcome.
Thank you very much, May. So, I'm Sergio,
And I'm Alana.
and today we're introducing Alex. In a world where we have technology that places people in empty seats in moving cars like Uber, and empty beds in houses like Airbnb, why can't we place people in empty seats in classrooms? That's exactly what we're doing with Alex. This is me with my sisters, and my parents can't retire because they've helped support us through college. We all had part-time jobs, and we still took loans. There has to be another way to do this. The cost of higher education is out of control, not only for us, but for many families in the US, outpacing the housing prices and also wages. It's not only a burden to individuals, but also our country. Over $1.2 trillion in higher education student debt. On the other side, there's a lost opportunity. There's 2 million seats go unfilled every year across the higher ed institutions in the US. And every empty seat could be there for a learner to subsidize the decreased funding and also the increase in cost for universities. This represents an over $4 billion opportunity, even at a steep discount for these learners.
So our solution is higher education, one course at a time. Learners can log into the platform and they can search for subjects they're interested in, let's say entrepreneurship. They can enroll in just a few tasks like so. They can also see other institutions in the area that offer similar courses. They can go ahead and save courses for later that they're interested in. And they have a student profile that shows what they're enrolled in. And they have a chat function so they can engage with people in the classroom to foster this community experience. This is higher education, one course at a time. Our theory of change is that by connecting learners to individual, in-person higher ed courses, we're giving them the skills and the network that they need for economic mobility and professional advancement. Our projected impact in 5 years is to engage 50,000 learners with a projected increase in salary of about $100 million.
And who we focused on serving? Over 40% of the US has never been to college. This represents over 49 million people that are in the workforce today, over the age of 25. They already spend over $4 billion on professional development that is not degree seeking. So how are we going to make money and sustain our business? Learners are going to pay Alex. We're targeting courses between $500 and $2,000. We're going to take a percentage fee, 15%, and the remainder goes toward educators. It's in line with what educators spend on marketing right now. This is our financial projections over 5 years, but what we're really focused on is this year, placing 100 learners in the classroom. We're speaking to businesses now and seeking employer partnerships. We have a partnership with Northeastern University. Other universities have expressed interest, but we're focused on the Boston area at this time because we're here. Again, our impact over 5 years will be serving 50,000 learners and increase salary potential of $100 million. Where this comes from is the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, the difference in wages from those with a high school diploma and those with some college. And also how we're going to track our impact is collect that salary data every time an individual takes a course. So compared to our competition, we offer the individualized experience similar to CourseHorse, and also the access to accredited learning like edX and Coursera. Where we're different is we're providing the in-person experience that not only learners value, but employers value over online learning. We have an amazing team. My name is Sergio. I have a background in business and have worked in edtech startups on this problem for about the past 5 years. I go to the Harvard Business School and the Kennedy School of Government.
My name is Alana, and I go to the Harvard Graduate School of Education and have a background in design and front-end web development. And our third founder is Annabelle. She's a computer engineer and she is our developer. And we have a great team of advisors across higher education institutions and policy. So now we're going to demo the first iteration or beta. Learners can log in. We're working on creating content to do inbound marketing to the site. Let's say they're interested in business. They can go ahead, look at some courses, and this is what we're going to use to pilot with Northeastern University, our first school. So, we believe higher education should be free for anyone who wants to continue learning throughout their life.
And this is Alex. Remix your learning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Awesome presentation. Before the judges ask their questions, if I could encourage everyone to open up their apps. And you'll see on the activity stream page, there's a pen. If we click on that pen, you should see a message screen, and that's where you can start tweeting at May Somali, which is my name on the board here. Any questions you have, and in the interim we'll hear from the judges. They'll have 2 questions from the panel, and then 2 questions from the audience.
What's not clear is, first of all, thank you for your time and presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
At the end of a student's effort, what do they get? And what gives us confidence that in taking some of those courses, I don't know if they get a degree or not, will they be able to increase their earnings? Oh, sorry. And this is all related. You want to add yours?
Yep, so, again, great pitch. A big question that we have in the online ed space is that there are tons of offerings. That's mainly because there is a real problem in higher education, but there are a lot of other organizations that have similar offerings. So how are you guys really different from other online education providers out there?
Thank you for your question. So how we're different is that we're offering the in-person experience, which is limited right now. There's not a lot of options. There's independent providers like General Assembly that are giving this in-person experience. What we're working towards is professional development, but we have been in conversations with certain institutions. We talked to the provost of the University of Albany, and in conversations with them, before we even mentioned anything, they said, oh, we can offer micro degrees to these students because they are paying for the credits that for these courses. So when the fee that they pay, they are getting the credit for these courses.
It also changes the dynamic because the institutions start to innovate for the individual, right? They have to incentivize them to come back and entice them to come back to take another course at their institution. So they're actually starting to innovate and compete with each other for the learner. So that's micro degrees and certifications was an example of University of Albany coming up with a way to add value and bring that learner back to their specific institution.
To Nita's point, the barriers of entry are so low. So that what should give an investor comfort that someone else won't do the same thing, or that there's value add for the student that comes to you?
Okay, yeah. So in terms of barriers of entry, there's barrier of entry for the learner, and I can let Alana talk about her work with this.
Yeah, so this is my experience looking for courses online in different institutions. Not calling anyone out, but this is kind of like what they all look like. So we're trying to make the user experience and design easier for the learner in terms of higher ed courses. And we've also gotten feedback from users that they value the in-person community that they don't get with the online experience. A lot of them have said that they just can't learn online and don't want to do it. So this is an alternative to the online options that are available right now.
And it doesn't mean we eventually don't want to offer any type of accreditation or certification. That's just not where we're starting. So these are like the different personas that we're serving and each of the capabilities that they want. We're offering ease of engagement, right? Because going through PDFs and filling out applications for each university is just a cumbersome experience, actually. Like we've tried to do it and spent hours just trying to sign up for a course, and it's exhausting. So that's number one, is like just making the experience easy, and then two, transparency in price across institutions in one place. So that's how we're adding value, step one. Step two in the future is, again, if you take, let's say, several courses across institutions, we can credential that and say, hey, this is something of value you can take to your employer. But that's not where we're starting. We're kind of starting from, the basic, non-degree, non-credentialing, focused on individuals that don't have a degree, because they're not engaging in the system right now. They're just taking one-off courses they're already taking one-off learning in other programs that give them no degree credits and no certification.
Judges, do you have any other questions, or should we move over to the audience?
I have one quick thing. It's actually not clear to me if you guys are offering individual classes, seats in individual classes, or if it's seats extra capacity in a course, so a full-on course, a full semester-long course.
So we're offering seats in a full semester course. We are playing with different models to do market testing. That is one of the models that we thought about, either a lower barrier to entry subscription method where you can just pay a fee and then go to the classes that you want to go to, but that's what we're testing right now.
But that would be lead generation for buying a full course so that they can sample it before getting in. So that is something we're testing.
Just a clarifying question. So if I'm a student,
Yeah.
and I'm connecting with other students in the online, or am I connecting?
In person, yeah. So,
Excuse
in person, so we're trying to connect them with an in-person experience.
Thanks, guys. So, excellent questions from the audience.
Thank you so much.
It's a bit actually overwhelming. A lot of the questions have been answered, so we're going to try and go with a question that probably strikes at a different a different topic. One is related to, from Oprah, from Lakewood Holistic Yoga, question related to market and product market fit. The question is, how would you market and entice people who aren't motivated to go to school to join your program? And what are some major incentives?
Sure. So right now, I would say individuals are remixing their education. They're doing exactly what we're doing. You're talking about a third of students are dropping out of college, and instead of looking at them as failures, they took the courses they wanted, then they ended up leaving because they didn't see the value in taking more courses, right? So we're offering them an experience where they're winning, right? They take a course, they take what they want, and when they're satisfied, then that's what they're taking. So enticing them, actually, like we've talked to a number of users, and they're like, so when are you going to have classes, specifically in New York? And because there's a large population there of employed. You're talking about they work at restaurants, they're young, they don't want to feel stagnant in their career. So those are part of the initial conversation.
And in terms of how we're marketing to them, we're marketing to them through employers. So we're targeting people who are working right now, who might have either dropped out or have never engaged with the system, because a lot of employers offer tuition subsidy to help them pay for these courses. Sorry.
Thank you, Alex. So our next venture is Dare to Innovate, and we'll be hearing from Emma and Megan. Sorry, actually, before we move on, we might just hear from the judges' feedback. So we'll have a minute each, and we can have you guys seated for this if you want, or you can stand.
You can stand.
Perfect. And judges, if you could please use the microphones, that would be excellent.
Great job. Some things, I love that you guys are tackling education. I think a lot about community colleges and untapped resources there, so I don't know if, I saw a lot of like brand name schools, and partially in my head, I kind of think that they don't want this, because part of their sales is that, you know, Harvard is really competitive to get into, and they're, you know, curating a class, and you're kind of breaking that. So I'm just, you know, have to comment, just something to think about. I would have loved to see something about how much it costs you to acquire a student, or how long it takes. And then I think, just in general, I really like the community college stuff. So I don't know, I would have loved to see how you're thinking about breaking down the different types of school systems and how you're going to go to each, and where you go first. Make sense?
Thank you. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you for your explanation. I do thought we have three things on my head that is just worry me about your project. Is first of all, this credibility. So how are you going to compete with those? And that's something you mentioned before. You're going to compete with those big institutions that are just offering such a good brand in terms of providing education to all people that's applying to the courses. So you have to work a little bit more on that. That's my opinion. The second thing is about the scalability. Again, expect to scale up this project. I'm assuming that you're just going to focus for the first time into an area geographically, basically based in the United States, but think about how you can make that impact global, and then giving access to all kind of, you know, potential students that are going to just apply for your online community. So it's going to be hard to think about it. If you heard nothing about this. And the third point is the go-to-market. It sounds to me that it's going to be a little bit more complicated, the way how you can execute your go-to-market in terms of just displace the competitors, because as you said before, there's a lot of online courses from all kind of companies, even some kind of universities in Europe, for instance, are just specialized on online courses, and they're very famous there. So how are you going to beat them, and how are you going to compete with such a big institution? So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I thought what you did well is you presented really well, and you played off of each other really well. Good eye contact, good countenance, well done. You identified a need, and your product is meeting a need. I thought you did that well. The management team's experience seems very relevant, and that's something you look for. What I'd say that you might need to focus on is marketing is key. Cost of acquisition is a very important part, that's what Scott brought up, and no one on your team has specific marketing experience. So when you do a raise, you want to think about making sure that somebody is really skilled in that area. You did identify the impact that you would have, and I think that's very good. I do think that the question from the audience was a really good one. There are a lot of people that just aren't motivated, and you've identified your differentiation somewhat, but I think you need to spend more time on that, because sometimes we might think it's a good idea, but the users aren't so motivated. And that leads me to the last point, which is the go-to-market strategy. I think you should have more of that in your presentation, and it seems like that's probably the weakest link of your presentation.
I don't have too much to add. These are all great points. I will mention one, I'll just highlight again one of the things that Valerie said. I thought you two had a very good pitch. Your dynamics were really good. So, and you held my interest the whole time, which is, you know, that's something too. After lunch. The thing that I would highlight is another point that Valerie said, which is that you really do want to think about why people are not going to college, right? So if you think about that, there are a couple major reasons why people either don't go or drop out. One is a lack of desire. That's probably not going to be your target audience. You're not going to convince people that they're going to go to college, so that's out, right? Next is financial needs. If they can't afford it, how are you uniquely positioned to help people come in and actually pay for your service? 3 is scheduling issues. So a lot of times people drop out because they're working retail. They can't come to classes at a certain particular point in time, and that's actually why, one of the reasons why online education is supposed to work well for those people, because they can come in at any given point in time. A physical classroom is going to be very, very challenging for those people to come in and actually utilize your service. So I would really narrow down how you're addressing who you're trying to serve and how you're targeting, how you're tailoring your solution to them.
One other thing I didn't mention, which I think is really critical, a lot of people will go to get a degree, but it doesn't increase their salary. So you might want to think about pivoting at some point to make sure that the skills that you're teaching can be identified with increased salary. So they might be skills and not, I don't know, psychology class.
Right.
So.
Great job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we'll now hear from Dare to Innovate, Emma and Megan.
You could just go and leave them on the side. We won't judge you. Although it's kind of hard, but
You can actually.
yeah, you could just leave it like that.
Yeah, it's fun. Even better without screens.
I'll just say one.
Are you sure? I'm
It's
sorry.
fine. It's fast. We're going to Africa.
Oh,
Yeah, we got it. I'll make it happen. It's just go to the first line. All right. Sorry for the sneak preview. All right. So if you can all please stand up. All right. So let's pretend for a moment that we're in West Africa and you're all youth. Now those in this right section right here remain standing and the rest sit down. So if you're sitting down, you're unemployed. I am Emma. And I'm Megan. And we're building a future where you'll all be standing. We're, so if you could please sit down. You don't have to stand all the time. We believe the key to this future is through creating the systems that enable and empower youth to employ themselves and employ others. Simply put, we believe in the power of entrepreneurship to end unemployment. We achieve this through an ecosystem approach that pairs training with investment and ongoing support.
So what does this look like? Aliu graduated with a master's degree in veterinary science at the top of his class. He then entered the job market where there were no jobs. In 2013, Aliu became a Dare to Innovate Fellow. Through our training program, he realized his dream to launch Guinea's first mobile veterinary clinic. And by winning our competition, he got the seed funding that he needed to make that dream a reality. Today, Aliu employs 6 of his peers. But how can we support him as he grows?
Right now, Ali does his accounting in a paper notebook. We send him a survey via WhatsApp, which he fills out, populating a spreadsheet in our drive. We then manually analyze that data and send him feedback via Messenger. This process is overly complicated and it attracts valuable resources that could be better invested in Ali's growth. We believe that investing in entrepreneurs without support is a waste of money, and our peers agree. There needs to be a better solution, and that's how Impact was born.
Impact is the industry's first monitoring and evaluation platform that operationalizes the collection of financial and social impact indicators. We then analyze our data to spot and solve problems as they emerge. So back to Aliu. Let's assume that this month his accounts payable will exceed his accounts receivable. before he runs out of cash to receive an alert through the application. And using his historical financial statements generated through his use of Impact, he can go to a bank to get the short-term funding that he needs. At the same time, we'll push some educational content to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Before, Ali's business would have folded. Now it can continue to grow. Most organizations rely on archaic technology to do their monitoring and evaluation, phone calls, and site visits. And those using improved technologies are using SMS-based platforms where they push a survey and hope that the beneficiary responds. Oftentimes they don't. And even when these two systems are working, it's passive and retrospective. Impact is based on design thinking. We analyze the operation of entrepreneurs and NGOs in the field to uncover a pain point. And it is within a pain point that we intervened. This pain point, accounting. So this is the actual accounting of Fatimata, one of our entrepreneurs. And she's diligent about recording her revenues and expenses in this notebook. But her data will live and die in this notebook. It will never become a financial statement, and it will never be analyzed so that she can make data-driven decisions to fuel her growth. By putting a powerful business management and education platform into the hands of entrepreneurs in the field, we not only support their operations, but we accelerate their growth. And these are our end users. But our customers are any individual or organization that has it in their mission statement to support economic development.
So right now you're getting a sneak peek at the administrator's dashboard in the Impact platform. Through it, you can assess the financial health of your portfolio, see their social impact, and track your progress against your budget, both in an aggregate level and at the individual entrepreneur. And previously, the collection of this data would have taken weeks. Now with Impact, it's seamlessly available at your fingertips in real time. By commercializing this offering for the international and development industry, we can tap into a $300 billion market, $15 billion of which is spent on monitoring and evaluation alone. Our share of that to win is $8 billion, and at a 5% market share, that's $400 million in annual revenue. We're happy to answer why we think this is not only possible, but possible in the questions.
So we got up here and said that we were going to end unemployment. So why is Impact important? Right now, if you're a woman in a village and you want to get a small loan from a microfinance institution to go from selling rice to selling tomatoes, you can do that. Or on the other end of the spectrum, there are impact investors who are looking for that one person who can employ thousands. But jobs are made in the middle. And we understand that right now it's nearly impossible to invest in the small business sector in developing countries. We know that these entrepreneurs are difficult to source, risky to invest in, and very, very expensive to support. But Impact changes all that. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to continue because we were slowed down by these slide changes. So Impact ensures that development capital flows to its most effective use. At scale, we'll have a database of local NGOs that most effectively transform dollars into social impact. And on the entrepreneur side, we'll have lists of entrepreneurs who can provide investors with the ROI they seek, be it financial or social. So at scale, Impact ensures that development capital flows to its most effective use. And when we do that, we end unemployment. Thank you. I would just love to blow this up so you can see on the side the actual accounting.
We're gonna try to start the PowerPoint and blow up your deck.
Okay.
It will work, because we tried it yesterday, it worked. So
It's just now.
yeah, so we're gonna restart all of the PowerPoints.
We should have stuck with our flip chart paper like
If I could encourage audience members to open their apps and start asking questions as well while we're waiting for the judges to ask their questions. Thanks guys for the presentation despite all odds, technology trying to work against us.
Oh, yay. So this is accounting in West Africa with entrepreneurs.
bunch of questions, but the first thing that comes to my mind is, as far as I understood, with that tool, you're going to help as, for instance, let's suppose as an investor, looking for, those such wonderful entrepreneurs, and then you provide me kind of a tool to evaluate how they just behave, right? But it's difficult sometimes when you just want to select who is the best entrepreneur, to just measure how good, effectivity, if you're talking to them. One of the main problems when you're dealing with entrepreneurs is that, some of them are awesome and, they just like, some skills are essential and you don't know, you just now kind of just figure out, well, those skills, you can talk to them. And this is where we sit sometimes on the boards and so on. So you can expect, that I'm going to get credibility. You're going to just rely on your system that, talking to them just based on metrics that are managed by the computer. So that's a kind of.
Yes, so our go-to-market strategy is actually through international development agencies, foundations, impact investors who want to have a portfolio of entrepreneurs. The World Bank, I'm sure you're all aware, came out with a study last spring saying that investing in entrepreneurs might just be the most effective tool for development. And so we see across the whole international development industry, all of these organizations saying, yes, we're going to invest behind entrepreneurs. And so in years 1 through 5 even, it's through these organizations that we're going to source portfolios of entrepreneurs. And then these organizations will have the administrator's dashboard that will allow them to follow their entrepreneurs. And so say they get an alert up here, that alert could be something like Fatima, who runs the school, has declining student numbers. And so the first thing we would do is push her training. And we would be able to know what training worked best in that situation based on all of the entrepreneurs that we're supporting across the platform. But if that actually doesn't affect your numbers, then the next step is for the portfolio administrator to engage on one-on-one remote chat with them. And then you continue to watch entrepreneurs, and the next phase would be something like a site visit. So right now in international development, if you're an organization and you funded Fatima to school, maybe 6 months in, you'll go check it out. And like at the end of the year, you'll decide like, oh, did our money do something? And if it didn't, it's kind of too late because the money's been spent. So the real innovation here is finding a way to compel people at the last mile to input their data so that you can manage them in real time and help them grow and not have any small error become fatal for the business.
Thank you for your time. It's a great idea. 2 questions related. You're making some assumptions, and one assumption is that the entrepreneur is going to put this data into their phone, and they're in the village, and they have other issues. What gives you comfort that, 1, they're going to do that, and 2, that having that data will necessarily translate into loans? Because the data that they're coming up with, so in the United States and in Europe and around the world, you usually have a third party verifying the data. And so here you don't have that.
There's a couple mechanisms. First of all, we're returned Peace Corps volunteers. So we spent 2 years in Guinea with all of these entrepreneurs, and Dare to Innovate supports the portfolio of entrepreneurs at this moment. And it was our challenges in supporting them using the archaic methods and using SMS-based platforms that pushed us into trying an operationalized approach. We have a couple mechanisms that we're putting in place in order to ensure data quality. The first is this balance between wanting to be accurate about your information, not underselling yourself, but not overselling yourself to attract investors. So there'll be different mechanisms such as your revenue can be paid in mobile money. So we'll know the revenue coming in. If you have costs over a certain amount, like you're buying something, let's say that's worth $500, you're gonna upload a photo of that into the app. So, and then on the upside, you don't want to sell yourself short because you'll end up on these lists of good investments. And that's not to say the 10 fastest growing entrepreneurs. It's to say to whatever organization out there that wants to support entrepreneurs, what are your criteria, and here are some that might meet that. But again, that's at scale. We need the database first. Right now, we're really committed to figuring out how we build a system so that people actually input their data, because we know that the seamless backend means absolutely zero if you're not getting good quality data in. So that's our focus for right now.
Let's say all of the entrepreneurs let's say all the entrepreneurs take on and use this, right? Can you talk about the groups that you're giving the dashboard to? Like, how does this change their workflow? And are they on board with it? Does it add other complexities for them?
Yes, so we are in touch with several customers. We have verbal commits from some foundations who are really familiar with Dare to Innovate and our work in West Africa. This reduces complexity. Has anyone here been to West Africa? Okay, so the roads, they're fun, right? You totally want to drive out to the village to check up on someone. So we're reducing a lot of complexity in the actual monitoring and evaluation, and we're saving them a lot of time. So if it adds their workflow, because now they're chatting more often with the people in the portfolio, great, that's a perfect outcome.
So we've got many audience questions, and a couple have already been answered, but the theme that keeps coming up, and this is a question that Paris Martin also referred to from the Kennedy School, is why West Africa? You said you spent a couple of years there, so why this geography and not others? And people also want to know about your specific backgrounds and why this is a fit to the particular issue that you're trying to tackle. Thanks.
So I would say the two questions are interrelated of why West Africa, but we talked about it, we touched on the last slide, this missing middle. Right now, like in wherever you are, small business development is where you need to grow the economy, and the need is so strong in West Africa. It's a really difficult context to work in, especially if you're not intimately familiar with it. So we are familiar with West Africa. We have experience working in West Africa. We have entrepreneurs, we have foundations who want to be our customers. Our background, we're not our only team members. I have an undergraduate degree from the McDonough School of Business at Georgetown, and then after the Peace Corps, I have spent 2 years doing innovation strategy for Fortune 50 companies, including developing a web platform for the sharing economy for an industrial products company. So I've taken a business from idea in the field of the user all the way through to something that's real.
And so I obviously have the same Peace Corps background as Megan, but I have a marketing undergraduate degree from Northeastern University, and then after the Peace Corps, I worked at an enterprise SaaS company, which kind of gives me the more technical background and side of things. And I worked in organizational and capacity development with all their different teams within the company, so it gave me a really intimate understanding of what they all have to do in order to create a product.
And our other founders have similar both public and private sector background. And then we have advisors from foundations from the D School at Stanford and as well in the philanthropy world.
Great. Thank you, Megan. We'll now have feedback from our judges.
Great job, guys. I thought you were very crisp in your presentation. I was a little bit confused in the very beginning when we started with a story about a guy and then we went into impact. And I wasn't necessarily very clear in the first minute 30, what you guys were trying to do. So that's valuable time. So I would just say maybe work on sharpening that piece of the pitch a little bit. The key point for me on this one, and I think you will get asked by impact investors time in and time out. Number one question for me is how many people have you approached? And then at the 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year mark, what's your persistency look like? Because at the end of the day, you can say, I know my audience, but if you don't show that they find your product valuable, that's it. So, but overall, I thought it was great. Thank you.
Yes, I would agree with what Nita said. It wasn't clear in the beginning what you did, and I wasn't sure. In fact, at the end of your presentation, I turned to the judge. Are they servicing Dare to Innovate, and that's your client, or who's the client? So that wasn't clear. The other thing is, the audience wanted to know about the team. That should be in your presentation, and that's critical. What gives you credibility around that? You came really close when you started talking to us, in contrast to the other the state back there, and that was nice. It made me feel like I wanted to lean in, or you knew who you were presenting to, but I don't think you ignored the broader audience. The proof of making the point that there is a need and that people are buying it, we didn't get a sense of how many have taken a hold of the concept. So it still leaves the question of have you proven the concept regarding the need. What's good is that there's clearly a need. You started off by engaging us. Stand up, sit down, to bring home the point that there are a lot of unemployed people, and I thought that was effective.
I wanted to say first, what you said, what was the best for me was that you just make us smile a little bit because it was funny. You know, that's very important. Whatever you do, that's advice for everybody, just to try to smile and do something funny. Because that takes attention to everybody, and then everybody will remind you today because you made us laugh. So, the second thing is about, I miss about competitions. Competitors, you didn't mention nothing about them, so it looks like you are the only one, and that's not true. And this is the first question that somebody is going to ask you, but who else is doing this? Because I'm sure everybody else is doing, and why are you different from the other one? You didn't mention why are you different, so it's difficult for me to ask you, what is your value? Because I didn't just get information from competitors, and I know nothing about the market. And the last thing is, again, is how to rely on that information. This is something that is very, is a concern because, you know, how it's going to upload the data, how you're going to trust and upload the right data. I mean, it's really hard just to trace an entrepreneur, even just meeting face-to-face, so on a distance and without knowledge, just personal contact, so something really complicated. For the rest, that's good. Thank you.
Awesome job. I think I got pretty confused about who your real customer was. Like, was it the entrepreneur? And I actually think it's not the entrepreneur. You just service them through your real customer, and it took me like halfway through the presentation to get there. So I wonder if you actually start with the problem of, instead of talking about unemployment up front the way you did, it's kind of like, we can improve that through this other thing. So just a clarity of the story. Also, this is a small thing. If I were you guys, I would have just dropped the presentation. Like, it's something like you've been working in West Africa, and I'm sure you've had lots of things you just like get in there and tackle, and partially like that's what we bet on as an entrepreneur. So I would have loved to see just like ownership of that up front. I know it's a small thing, but just be like, nope, whatever. Like, I know you guys know the story, so just own it. You know, tell us what you want us to know. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emma and Megan. So the third company we have pitching today is a company called Green Soul, and Shreyans will be presenting on behalf of the company.
And while they're presenting this out, we forgot to mention one critical thing. It was not clear at all what your business model was. Like, how do you make the money? You mentioned that it can turn into 400, but who are you charging? And so that you have to, where's the fee? Did you mention that?
I might have skipped it, but by accident. It is the International Development Organization that pays. It's a SaaS platform, and they pay a licensing fee based on the number of users that they have. We're not yet at the phase where we have pricing information yet, and we are going to do value-based pricing, but we don't know exactly what that's going to be yet, which is why it probably seems a little light. Just right next to the...
So very good afternoon everyone, this is Shant Bhandaria, and today I am going to pitch about my venture Green Soul, which is a step towards sustainability. Globally, every year more than 350 million pairs of shoes are discarded each year. While, as per the UNESCO and WHO report, 1.5 billion people currently do not have footwear. And this problem spans to across 1/4 of the world. At Green Soul, we refurbish discarded shoes to comfortable footwear and provide them to the retail, thus bridging the gap. We also have a scalable business model behind it, corporate CSR. Every company globally wants to give back to the society in some way, and Greensole offers an innovative way of making a social and environmental impact. Corporate sponsor Greensole footwear for the needy at $3 a pair, and then we donate it to the people in need across the country. In future, we'll also be acting as recycling partners of footwear manufacturing companies, recycling the manufacturing defects, and also shoes of the customers. For example, companies like Aldo, H&M, Adidas, and many more. We also have a market range of footwear which is priced at $15 and is available online and through retail channels. Apart from that, we also sell carbon credits, auction shoes refurbished to footwear of famous personalities. And people can travel with Greensole to countries like Uganda, Haiti, Jamaica, and experience donating firsthand. We've already impacted 3,000 EVs in the villages of India, saved 45,000 pounds of carbon emissions. JLN, which is Fortune 500 company, Tata Group, Canon, and Jaldal are our corporate partners. We also generate employment and skill the labor, and in 2016 we've impacted 50,000 EVs in India and globally. We also will be operating training centers and giving with dignity as a long-term solution. I handle the marketing as CEO and co-founder of the company. I'm an athlete, author, photographer, ornithologist. I'm currently enrolled in Babson College. Greensole is also a part of Babson's famous Butler Venture Accelerator. Ramesh is the co-founder of the company and handles the operations. We also have got manufacturing partners on board who have been into making footwear since the past 20 years. And they've got a network of 250 brands so Greensole's network has expanded to the brands that they're in touch with. We also have got mentors from industry professionals to serial entrepreneurs and a team of 24 volunteers who are helping us build this venture. We started a year back and had revenues of $15,000 and moving towards a target of $50,000 to $1.5 million by 2018. This is because all our revenue streams will start kicking in, like the sales revenue, corporate CSR, carbon credits, and all of this. We've also been appreciated by President Barack Obama for the thought behind the venture and Ratan Tata for the cause that we have undertaken. We have been regularly featured in the media, including BBC, Vogue magazine, Youth Incorporated, and many others. Thank you. I just have a short video which will summarize the entire concept. Thank you. Me and Ramesh are both athletes, and we discard 3 to 4 pairs of sports shoes each year. Greensole started while we were working on effectively elongating the life of our torn sports shoes. Worldwide, every year, 35 crore pair of non-biodegradable sports shoes are thrown away as they're no longer fit to use. We tap and refurbish these shoes with recycled materials to make slippers, reducing carbon footprint and greatly helping the environment. The Greensole thus made not just has the recycled tag of saving 15 lbs of carbon dioxide, but also comfortable and has the advantage of an added cushion and superior road grip. Almost half of the world's population lives on an income of less than $2.5 per day. This fact indicates the inability of 3 billion people to afford even one pair of slippers. Lack of adequate footwear is more than a simple inconvenience or lack of comfort. Millions are infected or dying each year due to diseases contracted through unprotected feet. My vision is to not just sell recycled footwear, but to also provide these to the billions of people who cannot afford them. And we are proud to share that we are pioneers in refurbishing sports shoes to slippers.
Thank you, Shriyans. If we could open up our apps and start asking questions about Greensole while our judges get their questions ready. Thanks.
Our questions are around, first of all, great job.
Thank you.
Great vision, great job, you mean it, great you. Profit margins, go-to-market strategy, and importantly, distribution. Can you speak to those 3 points?
Those are very important points. So when it comes to the profit margin, in CSR model we have got around 15% of a margin. But when
Did you
it
say
comes
80?
15.
15%?
So we have kept the margins low there, but the revenues come from the marketing with the profitability is around 60%.
I'm sorry, I didn't follow that.
So we have a market range of footwear which is for general public and sold through online and retail channels. Like,
That's 60%.
yeah, that's 60%. Yeah. And what we donate to the needy, we have a very small margin on that.
That's 15.
15%. So corporate basically sponsors this, and they sponsor the inbound transportation to our factory, so we don't have to pay for that. And the outbound transportation is on the NGO known as Room. So they distribute clothes, and so they know where actually people need the clothes, and with that they also donate for that. So the entire $3 goes to our manufacturing, and we have a 15% markup on that. And when it comes to the go-to-market strategy, we've got CSR model, then we have the market range of footwear, then we are getting celebrities involved, getting their shoes refurbishing further to enhance the brand and spread awareness for the product.
So I would be very clean on this. I really liked your presentation. I think it was very captivating, addresses a clear need, and demonstrates that there's a problem, and demonstrates how you uniquely are attacking that problem, right? I'm going to give you harder questions because I think you demonstrated a level of thought through this, the process that merits it. So it's clear who you serve, it's clear how you serve these individuals. I think there should be a slide that says, for each of these levers, CSR. CSR to me is not really revenue, it's philanthropy, right? Because you're getting it from a corporation, so it's a little bit different of a model. I would address that differently. So it'd be a philanthropy piece, CSR, 15% margins, and then however much of your revenue is coming through earned income, I would highlight that and say, this is what we're at right now, and this is what we're targeting in a few years' time. And that's actually one of my questions, is really around how much are you making right now, for like as a proportion of your total revenue. So that was a very sort of long-winded follow-up.
Yeah. So I had many more slides like ratios also and all these, but I cut it off with the presentation. So answering the question, we had $15,000 in revenues, which entirely came from the CSR, and we'll be launching the marketing and we'll be getting traction around that.
And eventually, how much your revenue would make up from that?
80% will be from the revenues from the market and 20% philanthropy.
So you're saying like CSR means that JLL is buying the shoes on your behalf?
Yeah,
and
they
then
just
giving
pay
them out?
$3 per pair. And the shoes also come from the employee, which they transport to.
Wait, say that again, the corporation pays you for the
$3
shoes?
and a pair of shoes also paid for.
And who distributes them to the users?
They got an organization known as Goond.
Say that again?
It's known as Goond. It's a nationwide organization in India. So they basically distribute clothes to the neediest across the country. So with them we have a tie-up of giving clothes and green clothes.
How is your capacity to manufacture big volumes? How are you going to make it?
Manufacturing
Yeah, big volumes. That's something that's just going to make it harder, a big order, because that's quite complicated. You have to just keep it in mind. You have to invest a lot of money just to do the manufacturing process. You're going to need a lot of money in the cash flow. And you're going to prevent this. Because as much as you grow, the more money you need.
So we got manufacturing partners on board who are into making footwear and exporting them. So as part of that, we got access to the manufacturing facilities, and our current capacity is around 800 pairs a month, but we are not utilizing that. And can be further increased with great flexibility.
Another question. That's maybe stupid, but you said something about protecting from infection, and then you just offering slippers, which just within the needs. You know, it sounds confusing to me. The just from a marketing point of view, that you just mentioned something about protecting the feet from infection, and you selling something which is just leaving the feet open. It's just a remark.
By giving footwear, we prevent diseases that people are prone to. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So a question from the audience. There's a couple of people who have asked the same question. One of them is Juliana Uraib, the co-founder and partner of Tech and Change. Who is your competition and how is your model better, if anyone is also working in this space?
So currently we are the only one in the world refurbishing discarded shoes to prepare. We also got patents regarding the same. But there's definitely competition because philanthropic funds are limited and corporates can choose to invest in any other cause like food, water, but we offer a very innovative solution. So we are getting good traction with that. And what is the second?
And how are you better than them?
So what we've incorporated is a revenue stream as well. What we sell in the market, great designs, so we earn revenue from that and GST as well. So a hybrid model is what we've incorporated to tackle the problem.
Are you modeling yourself after Tom's shoes?
No, ours is a little different. Like, I mean, we don't relate one for one. Like our mission is to give footwear to every field in the world, recycled footwear. So we focus on that and sales is different.
How do you source the recycled footwear? Where do you source it?
Yeah, so the corporates, as part of their CSR, like with $3, they give the shoes to the employees, and they've got like 10,000 people working under them. Apart from that, we've got collection boxes in public parks and ties with sports organizations. So discarded shoes is not a big problem collecting it. And apart from that, we've got industrial defects also from big companies like Adidas. They have got manufacturing defects of 0.5 billion shoes, which is a complete waste for them. So we are tapping into that as well.
Thank you, Shriyans. Judges, I'll hand it over to you for feedback. Thanks.
I think I'd say presentation was good. I think that we said before, you've got a really interesting way to solve this need. Partially, I'd ask you about scale. Like, it's not clear based on what you showed how you get there. Like right now, it feels like it could be some project while you're in school or something. But how do you start processing millions of shoes? And I didn't see like that kind of presentation. And then maybe that's just where you are, so that's okay. But I think helping me understand how do you actually like take the shoe, make it, and then get it out seems like it's going to cost more than $3. So I would love for you to do this for the rest of your life and make a living and things like that. And right now, I think I see it as a project, and I'd love for you to help describe how it becomes something much bigger.
A great project, I love it. What I would say is that it's also was like in one slide in your presentation with the entire diagram of the cycle. That would help us a lot because I was lost sometimes on the way that you was getting there. You know, how you was just collecting the shoes, and that's one of the things I would suggest for the next time because it gives us a complete picture from the top about your business, your whole cycle. And the second thing is about financial projections, about in terms of your capacity to support manufacturing procedures and everything. Because when you talk about volume, you have to manufacture and manage people and factory and buy and sell. You need to be ready for a lot of cash flow problems. So I may just recommend you for the next time to talk a little more about this. Thank you.
Yes, great presentation, great need. I would support everything that the judges said. I would only add that all of the questions that we've asked should be a part of your next presentation. Make sure that it's included in your next presentation. The go-to-market strategy isn't clear. I agree with that. So right now you have the benefit of one corporation that is allowing for 800 pairs, supporting that. But if you think about if you aren't in India, if you want to expand beyond that, just how are you thinking about it and what are those numbers? It's not really clear. You have a good grasp yet on what those numbers might be. That might incent an investor to say, not only does it feel good, but it can be profitable. And I think that part is missing. But otherwise, I think it's great.
Great presentation. I sort of gave my feedback earlier. I would say be careful on using the term CSR because to me, when we do work in the Indian market, I hear CSR and I think of a corporation is giving you the CSR, the legal piece, they're just giving you money. But in this model, it sounds like they're paying you for shoes, a reduced rate, but I would be clear on that because that is earned revenue in a way. And then to these guys' point, one slide in your pitch walking through the business model, so just walk us through, how you get the shoes and beyond, and how it gets to the person. And then at the bottom of that, I would say the cost, the unit cost of each of that. So it costs me $1 to manufacture these shoes. It costs me $1.50 to distribute, whatever it is, so that people can see, oh, this is the path to getting to scalability. Longer term, is there a path? Because I think that's what all of us are sort of trying to get at. But great job.
Thank you, judges, and thank you, Shreyans. And our fourth and final company for the day is a company called Group, and we'll be hearing from Shrenik and Ravi today, so please make them feel welcome.
So you're the CEO, right?
So I'm Shrenik, and this is my partner Ravi, and we're here to talk to you guys about making a difference in mental health. Mental health issues are a huge problem in this country, with at least 1 in 5 people estimated to suffer from a mental illness. That means I'd wager that every single person in this room either knows someone or has been personally affected by this issue. Now the real problem is that 2/3 of all people that are actually diagnosed with a mental health problem receive zero care whatsoever. That amounts to $200 billion in lost earnings and productivity. A big reason that these people are keeping quiet has to do with social stigma. Now, this is an issue that is thrown around a lot when people discuss mental health, but I think the statistics that we have up here speak for themselves. The majority of Americans would be unwilling to work closely with someone who has depression, and 1/3 of Americans feel that those with depression are a danger to others and would not socialize with them. 90% of suicides have an underlying mental health illness. Furthermore, for each successful suicide, there's 25 attempts. This shows that the cost amounts to more than just dollars. 22 suicides are committed by U.S. veterans and soldiers specifically each day, found in a VA study. Furthermore, if a veteran is under the age of 30, he's 3 times more likely to kill himself. Other uniformed services fare just as poorly. 1 in 5 first responders will develop PTSD during their lifetime, with firefighters, police officers, and paramedics all reporting suicide rates 2 to 3 times greater than the general population. Young people are the final group that we're focusing on. 9 out of 10 people with a mental health diagnosis are subject to stigma. Furthermore, 40% of these young people stop going to school or college, and 57% do not apply to jobs for fear of discrimination. Our solution is a mobile platform for anonymous, affordable, and accessible support. Users will sign in on the screen that you see in front of you, and then select from a diverse category of general issues. So in this example, a user will select pain. Then, the user will see a list of specific groups, say cancer survivors or living with AIDS. From there, groups consist of 5 to 7 like-minded peers and are led by either a trained peer or a therapist with relevant domain experience. There, users can talk to each other either through voice over internet protocol or built-in chat. We've estimated a total market size of $2.2 billion because we're planning on adopting a B2B style model. Our market size consisted of mostly 40% government contracts to the DoD and VA, and then equal parts colleges and universities, local governments through first responders, and partner nonprofits. Now, these may seem like very different verticals at first, but they actually have some very key similarities. Firstly, there's a central stakeholding organization. This means we can easily negotiate with a stakeholding organization that has like-minded goals and easily reach critical mass. Secondly, they have a unique social environment. This means that peer support is critical. You can't counsel a soldier with just a random therapist. But also, a shared social environment means that social stigma plays a key role in causing people to admit to mental health problems. Finally, these are very accessible groups, as having young users means they are more willing to accept digital therapy as an alternative. We're bridging the gap between existing resources and users. Existing clinical evidence supports both a model for group therapy and a model for internet digital therapy. Stakeholders have already spent money building up an infrastructure to combat this problem, with the DoD spending an estimated $1 billion on mental health in the past year. However, these existing solutions have limited reach. Users with GRUP can tap into a support system anywhere at any time. We offer specialized group support. We don't believe in cookie-cutter therapy. Specific problems can get tailored support that they need. And previously, while logistical issues may have created problems in finding like-minded individuals, the use of a digital platform means that this problem is surmounted.
So the real problem is, how do you get people to open up and really take feedback critically? And that's what we use anonymity for. So anonymity has been clinically proven to combat social stigma. But the problem is the toxicity which arises from it, which you will see in Reddit or Yikia. And when we are dealing with such high-risk individuals, the stakes are so high. So what we use and design are advanced natural language processing tools. We break down sentiment, context, and understand users as they move. We also understand what they're talking about. So this is one example. I want to walk into a lake and watch as the ripples go out as I go under. Clearly negative. Our algorithm can pick this up. Positive sentiment sentences like "I love you" turn up in green. But here's another trick. We actually use context. So should I kill myself is a question. The yes is so negative, but our algorithms can pick this up. And these are screenshots from our MVP right now. What we do is we visualize the sentiment analytics, and we get help to the users who need it the most from therapists when they need it. This is what our initial customers are saying about us, that veterans who are seeking help need anonymity the most, and anonymity is critical, and group is the only application that can deal the chaos arising from it.
So we have further slides on our business model. So we're adopting a dual subscription model. The first part of the subscription model is a B2B program that takes revenue, that builds a central organization to offload costs completely from users. Moderators are sourced from the existing infrastructure already put in place by these organizations. The second tier of the subscription model involves a more traditional B2C model, where users download our application on the App Store and then pay a nominal subscription fee to gain access to the treatment. We'll partner with specific nonprofits in order to use their specialized staff to moderate groups.
Guys, I'm going to have to cut you off. Sorry, just to keep it there. You can include this as part of your question answers if you would like, just to keep it fair. Judges, if you could select your questions, and in the interim, if everyone can please get out their apps again, questions for our final company before we go to voting and judging. Thank you.
Hi guys, great presentation. One of my big questions is around, we actually at DRK, we fund an organization that does something very similar. It's called Crisis Text Line. They don't use an app. They basically have a 1-800 number, something on the phone number where people who are at risk of suicide, having suicidal thoughts, call in. So it addresses the issue of anonymity. They don't target a particular audience. They've had tremendous success rates in cutting suicides. They're growing spectacularly quickly, so real problem, real need. The issue that they're having is that they're experiencing volunteer and paid staff burnout because people have to work a lot of hours, and these are obviously very difficult cases. You can be on the phone with someone for 3 hours trying to prevent them from committing suicide. So how do you guys think about that?
So a key part of our value proposition is that we're leveraging existing infrastructure. So a funny story we have actually is when we were talking with the DoD, we talked to a therapist whose job is to counsel soldiers. And he said, when I have office hours, no one ever comes. I end up just watching YouTube videos all day. But then when I go to the mess hall to grab lunch, everyone comes up to me and tries to get a quick word in and tells me about their life and their personal problems and tries to get some therapy in. So with regards to burnout, we're really just a platform, and we're taking advantage in that respect to the existing investment in infrastructure for these users. We're just enhancing their reach. And then the other thing is by adopting a group model, peer support is also critical. So the support is also in part given by the fact that you have users who empathize with you and users who have similar issues in the same group providing support.
Just a few questions about, so you're selling a platform, right? You're selling a platform that everybody you just selling the platform to some existing suppliers so they can just use the platform and not use their existing ways just to get in contact and support people, right? But what it sounds strange that how can, because who is the people who's giving support to all the other ones that are just calling asking for help? Are there professionals? Are there volunteers? Is that the question?
Yeah, can you
You said something about, the people that is just giving support to the ones that are calling are volunteers, not just physicians or psychologists or psychiatrists. Is that the point?
So in the case, we are already working with 2 or 3 of the largest nonprofits which deal with veterans, and then we are dealing with organizations like Active Minds which are involved in students. So in that case scenario, those organizations have volunteers who are trained but not licensed. But in the case of actual organizations like the Department of Defense, or in the case of counseling centers at universities, they are all licensed. So based on the partnership, based on the people and the personnel that we are servicing, that would change. So if it's a student body that we are servicing, if it's at Harvard, and we are servicing the entire Harvard student body, we would be trying to pair them with the counseling center and the resources which exist at Harvard, which are underutilized, and connect them so that they can get the help they need.
So in the B2B model, is it the university that's paying you, or is it the individual?
It would be it would be the university.
Can we see, can you talk about the financial?
Yeah.
So our first pilot is already is currently being scheduled with Johns Hopkins University. They're going to be paying us $12,000 to service the entire population. From that, we plan to grow from one university to the other. We have 22 target universities that we are going to. And in that case scenario, the university pays us and we provide the service fee to all of the students. In the other case of nonprofits, nonprofits are generally pretty strong on being able to pay for this. But what we do is we use their volunteers and we charge the end user $1 or something simple. But given the massive scale of these organizations, Active Mind, one example, 436 chapters around the United States, even if we consider 10 of them can have one therapist a day, have one therapy session a day, it's a huge number. The government contracts, so Major General Hogg, whose quote we saw, she manages $5.9 billion specifically for the Air Force. They have 45,000 employees. They're trying to target 2.9 Air Force personnel, and they have huge budgets, and they are willing to pay even $10 to $20 per person as long as they get the customized features that they want. So we have in government, so we start off with university and nonprofits and then transition into government contracts.
What's your background, your experience?
So I've built artificial intelligence in healthcare products before. I've sold at my previous company in the United Kingdom, I built a vertical which got spun out and then sold eventually. My co-founders include Ayushi and Akash and Shrenik brings amazing experience being a first responder himself, and he can talk more about that.
So yeah, I've been a first responder across three states for multiple years. It's given me a unique insight to how mental health issues within a uniformed organization. And the other thing is that you have to consider that the third most common cause of hospitalizations in the U.S. are mood disorders. So I've written over 200 medical calls, and I've spoken with a lot of these patients firsthand. And when you have half an hour alone in the back of an ambulance with someone who's suicidal, you get a real feel for what their kind of issues are and what kind of problems they feel like they're facing.
Thank you. And we've got a couple of questions from the audience that are on the same line of thinking. From Latifa Al-Mahad from Smith College and Leanne Toe from Blindlink Social Enterprise. And the question is, how do you define trained peers in your model? And how do you obtain these peers or therapists? Do you train them yourselves?
I think you want to take that?
So, yeah, I can take it. So with regards to trained peers, that would be referring to like the partnerships with the specific nonprofit. So our primary model is to serve as a platform, because our whole value proposition is that there's already investment in infrastructure, and there's already people working to solve this problem, and they're doing great work. There's a ton of research that validates group therapy, online therapy, and all that, but the reach isn't there. So that's why we've built the platform, which is versatile and flexible in terms of like the credentials of the people who moderate. So that's really the value proposition here, and that's one of the key differentiating factors between us and our competitors, which we didn't get a chance to mention, but we have done extensive research on. It's that we're taking a much more social aspect to this, and we're engaging a lot of the key stakeholders, be it nonprofits or the government or actual universities, rather than trying to adopt a model where we do everything ourselves, we train and we salary mental health professionals, because we find that limits both our versatility and our growth.
Thank you, Shrenik and Ravi. So we'll now hear from our judges in terms of feedback.
Okay. Thanks, guys, for the presentation. A couple things I think definitely a problem. I know some of the founders of people up there, and you guys are definitely, I understand where you're positioning yourselves. I think it's good. Just some things that say you went way too far into like product features, and for a tight pitch, just like basically you're up here. I'm assuming you guys are legit, right? So I would say just kind of go with that. Would have loved to see the business model sooner, because that was, I think, where a lot of people had questions. I think some just general things about the presentation. You guys should smile more. Small thing, but like...
We were a little nervous.
Yeah, it's okay, it's okay. And just really like hone down the message. Like, what's the one thing I got to take away from today, which is not really clear. There was like a lot. I felt like I was pulled in a lot of directions throughout the pitch. I spent more time investing in like, okay, what are you guys trying to say than like listening to. So I think just hone it down. You can get to the details that you might back up and stuff like that. Okay, great job though.
First of all, the way you attract our attention, giving us all information about the market is awesome, because it really gives me a lot of information just to evaluate your product, because you give me a lot of information about the market, and you didn't know all those figures. That's awesome. I think that's very recommendable to everybody. I would suggest you to explain your personal experience at the very beginning, because that's going to change completely the perception of the people who's in front of you. And I'm telling you that because I'm a founder of a foundation which is fighting against child cancer, and the first thing I said is that my son was diagnosed with cancer, and everybody pays attention to me. That's a trait, that's a truth, unfortunately. So that's something that you have. This is one of the assets of your company. You should just put it on the first line. And the third thing that I wanted to tell you is that you're selling technology. And sometimes I was a little bit confused if you were selling a product or services, or maybe you was just thinking to set up your own company to sell that service to others and charge for the services. So what is your main asset? What is your value? It is technology? I don't think so. You're selling platform. So if I'm an investor thinking about just putting your money in your company, so I'm thinking about my exit within now 4 or 5 years, it's just by selling your technology to another one. So do you have any kind of patents in terms of technology? Is that something intelligence, artificial, that is just your main? So those are things that needs to be clarified from the very beginning. Because you never know when you're in front of you, and I'm assuming you're always looking for money. And you have to think about what the investor is looking for in terms of corporate investment beyond the impact. Okay?
Great presentation, great need that you listed and explained the need really well early on. I would support Scott's point, show your personality. I go a little further and say, show the passion. Everyone else that presented before had passion that's tied to who they are, because at the end of the day, investors are investing in you. So make it relevant. It wasn't until the last question in the audience that it came that you were a first responder. So I think that should definitely come sooner. What's missing is how do you acquire your customers? In that, for me, because you can create a great whatever, but you can't make a horse drink it. And so, I know I may have messed that up a little bit. You can lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink, and you have a great platform, but thinking through how you might make sure, and it may be that these organizations are going to promote, and if they are going to promote, you didn't say that, as opposed to you have the relationship and they can put it out there, but are they going to promote it actively? I think that's important. Barriers to, so those are my main points. I love that you educated us. The business model, I thought was very clear as well. So, well done.
So, a couple things. We at DRK evaluate all our potential grantees on 3 factors: scalability, innovation, and leadership. And I think you guys addressed the scalability of your tech platform and how it's innovative pretty well. What you heard from the judges was questions around leadership. So again, like demonstrate why you're interested in this and why you're uniquely positioned to solve this problem, because that's a weak point of your pitch. In health tech, in general, that sector user adoption, to Valerie's point, is a key issue. So you can have everything right, hospitals will pay you, and you can have 10% of users using your product. And at the end of the day, you won't have your customers paying you over it. And that brings me to, you cannot charge users, your end users, when they're about to commit suicide. The last thing they want to do is run into a pay ad, that says, we need your credit card on iTunes. I mean, that would be bad. So that is basically my feedback. Great job, guys. Thanks, judges.
That brings us to the end of the official pitches, but what we need to do now is to vote for our winner. So what I'd encourage everyone to do is please open up your app, and on the app, if you go to the tab that says schedule, you'll be able to scroll down and find pitch competition. And when you click on pitch competition, you'll see that in the description, the final sentence says, once you're directed to vote, please do so here, with an interactive link. And that should take you to a Qualtrics page that looks something like what is on the screen here. The difference is you'll see the 4 companies listed. I will ask that our pitch presenters please not vote, but everyone else in the audience, please decide how you'd like to distribute your $1,000. As I mentioned at the start, for those of you who might have come in late, you're able to distribute the $1,000 across a number of companies or invest them all in one, but you do have to invest all $1,000. And once you've invested once, you can only vote once. So we'll give the audience 5 minutes to do that, and in the interim, the judges will be also using this criteria on the screen to decide the winners.
Hi everyone, I'm going to close the voting for everyone in the audience, so hit submit if you haven't yet done that. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to group back together and announce the winners. Thank you to everyone for voting. We've now officially closed polling and tallying the votes, although the computer does that for us, so I would be lying if I use the words counting. On behalf of SECON and everyone here, I'd like to welcome Valerie on behalf of the judges to come and announce the Judges' Choice Award.
Thank you, May. Good afternoon, everyone. Can we get a round of applause? I'm pleased to be up here on behalf of the wonderful judge panel. Didn't they ask great questions? I must say. I'm a little biased, but I think they asked great questions. This was a really difficult choice because everyone who came up here had passion, they had innovation, they had excellent presentations, and the leadership for each of you was really strong. And I want to emphasize and lead off with that. But of course, as investors, we have to invest in one. And my fellow panelist, Nita, pointed out that the leadership, the innovation, and importantly, the scalability is important. And we thought that the entity that expressed that the best and had impact, of course, was group. loved everything. Each of you is meeting a very important need, and we would encourage you to continue and not stop. We loved all of your presentations. We had to invest in one. And we liked that this was a platform that could pretty readily be scalable because of the partnerships that were created. You have that potential, but you have to do a little more work. Each of you, you're solving an important need. So thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Valerie, and thank you to our distinguished judges for such an awesome job today. Really appreciate all your insights, and I'm sure that the entrepreneurs here today have a lot to go back and work with. So now on to our People's Choice Award, like the M, you know, the Emmys, I would say.
Ooh, Oscars.
And the People's Choice Award goes to Green Soul. So to remind everyone of what the winners are receiving today, group, you will have lunch and a mentoring session with Jean Hammond, who's our entrepreneur and angel investor extraordinaire here in Boston. And the People's Choice Award winners, Green Soul, received 2 hours of mentoring with Tammy Kesselman, who is a leader in a thought leader in social entrepreneurship and impact investing, and also a waived application fee to Mass Challenge. So that's all in terms of the winners. A huge round of applause again for everyone here today. I'm going to hand it back over to Rebecca, who is on behalf of the SECON team. Before I do hand it back, I just want to remind the entrepreneurs and also audience members, if you are keen to see what other questions were asked, it is on the live stream, so that's something you can have a look at, and particularly for our companies to keep in mind.
And so I want to take a moment to thank everyone, May, and all of our judges for making this a huge success. So we have thank you presents for all of you, so please just help me give a round of applause to all those folks.